Hello everyone, I'm Rhoda and welcome to Rhoda Cards. Today I'm going to continue with my series of videos on quick and simple, easy cards. And I'm going to focus on stenciling without stencils. I want to show you how you can stencil without actually having stencils or using fancy brushes. You don't have to have any fancy equipment at all. You can use different things to make stencils and then use them on your cards with just using ink and a couple of basic supplies. These are the two cards I'm going to focus on today, and I'm going to show you how I made these. Again, quick and simple and easy without any fancy equipment. Let me show you the materials that we're going to need. The cardstock that you're going to need, I'm using white as my base, and it's 5.5 by 8.5, and then you score and fold it at 4 1/4. Now, if you're making your own card bases, you take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, put it in your paper trimmer this way, cut it down at 5.5, and you have two bases. You can also get already pre-cut and scored card bases if you would rather use those. I always make my own bases. You need 2 pieces of white cardstock, 4 3/4 by 3.5. And I say 2 because I'm going to show you how to make the 2 cards. They're just a little bit different. This is sea glass cardstock, 5 3 3/4. The sugar plum, which is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. Then we need a piece of white cardstock, just a little scrap for our sentiment, which is 2 inches by 7/8 of an inch. And then a piece of, this is sugar plum glitter paper to match the sugar plum paper cardstock, which is 2 1/8 by 1 inch. Now, I'm going to show you how I made the piece that I'm using to stencil. Okay, this is what we're going to be using to do the stars. I don't have stencils. And so what I did was I took this star punch. I have lots of different punches, but I just took this star punch and I took a piece. This is a little bit more than like computer paper, but it's not as thick as cardstock. And if you want it to last a little bit longer, I would suggest using cardstock or something a little bit thicker. But I just took this and I took my punch and I just punched the stars. And then you got a bunch of little stars that you can use on a different project if you want to. I'm not going to use those today, but this is what I'm going to use as my stencil. So you just punch out whatever you want to use. You could use a heart, you could use stars, circles, whatever you want. You could also cut out a square or a triangle and use that as a background. I'm just going to use the stars today. And I've got my two pieces of white here. And I'm going to use this piece under the back as I do my stencils here. So what I did was I flipped this over. It came from a paper pack that I had. And I just line this up. And I want to put this kind of somewhat over towards the corner. And I'm going to make it the same on both sides. So I'm going to just line it up in the middle of that R there. And then I'm going to flip it over. Then I'm going to hold it down. I'll use the sea glass first. This is my sea glass ink. And you don't have to have any fancy brushes. I'm using a sponge. You can use sponges, sponge daubers, you can use ink blending tools, you can use whatever you have. I don't have any of those other ink blending tools, so I'm just using a sponge. I saw this with Gina Kay one day. She was using a large sponge dauber to do some inking, and I was like, oh wow, I have sponges, so I don't have the big sponge daubers, I have small ones. But I said I could use a regular sponge for this. So you just get some ink on your sponge, and then you can swirl You can push back and forth however you want to do it. And depending upon how dark you want it, that's how much ink you want to add. I don't want to make it too dark, so I'm not going to add a whole lot. Lift that up and voila, look at that. So I'm also going to do this corner up here. So I'm going to flip this over so I can do this piece. Take my stencil. I'm going to line it up with that R there, just like I did with the other one. So it's about the same on both ends. Flip it over. You can use some removable tape. You could use a Post-it note to stick this piece of paper onto the cardstock that you're doing to keep it so it won't move. Post-it notes are really, really good for that. And I'll show you that with the next one. I didn't use that on this one. This sea glass ink is a little bit darker, so it's easier to see when you add your ink on here. And you can make it darker or lighter. If you want to make it darker, add more ink. Again, I don't want to make it too dark, so I'm going to stop with that. And there we go. That's the first one. See that? All right, so that was the sea glass one. Get finished with that. And now I'm going to use sugar plum. Sugar plum. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm using the same stencil. Another piece of white here. Flip it over. And just, you can do this in the middle of the card. I'm just doing it kind of at the two corners. If you want to keep this to where it's not going to move on you, you can take a piece of Post-it note, stick it down, just like that. Flip it over. And we're going to do the sugar plum. The sugar plum is lighter than the sea glass, so I'm going to add a little bit more than we did with the sea glass because it's lighter. And again, you can make it as light or as dark as you want it. You can swirl it or brush it back and forth. And there we go. See that? Now I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. I'm going to do this end down here. And I'm going to line that up again where I want it. I'm going to put this on here to hold it down. And then do the other corner. I guess my camera is shaking as I do this. Sorry about that. My camera is sitting on my table. Now this stencil that I'm using, again, is just a little bit more than paper, so it won't last forever. It will last for a few cards, but it's not going to last for lots and lots of cards. But again, this is something that you can use that I came off one of the paper packs I bought, so it's an extra sheet of paper. You don't have to buy stencils to do this. You can use what you have. I have lots of punches, so I thought I would use the stars. All right. So now we're going to build our card. I'll move that out of the way for a minute. Here's our two bases. Now you can score these before you fold them. Sometimes I do. Most of the time I don't. I just fold it over and use my bone folder to make a crisp crease on it. And super quick and easy. No fuss. So those are my card bases. So now we're just going to build the card. So here's the two pieces of cardstock that I'm using to match my inks. Now they are and we just line these up right in here. Now I made these just a little bit different. So if you want one to be a little bit bigger than the other, this sheet is a little bit bigger. So I'll just show you that one. And the measurement for that one is going to be 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. It's 5 3/8 by 1 1/8. So I'll just go ahead and use that one since it's like my display there. And then we're just going to glue these down. So get my tape runner here. Just add this to here. And I just put it right in the center of the cardstock so you have a good border around it. And I'm going to go ahead and put that on the base. Now, this one is in the opposite corners of the other one I did, which I'm okay with that. Just a little bit different. And just line that up, put that down. Now this one I stamped a sentiment on, and I also put some shimmer trim on it. I had some glitter paper to match the sugar plum. I don't have glitter paper to match this one, but I do have the shimmer trim. So what I did with this one is I put shimmer trim right across the center of it here. Oops, wrong one. Take the shimmer trim and I just put it right across the center here. Took my scissors and trimmed this off right here. And there's that. Either way. Now I'm going to add the sentiment. I've got a clear stamp that I'm using, so I'm going to use my Versamark to stamp that. I'm sorry, my Versamat. Not the Versamark, the Versamat. And I use charcoal ink for this. Charcoal ink was close to my heart. And the stamp here says, "Your friendship means everything." And I'm going to stamp it right under the shimmer trim there. And then while I've got it out, I might as well stamp this, which is the sentiment for the other card with the sugar plum. And you want to just stamp straight down and up again. You don't want to rock it because then it looks kind of funky. Okay. Now this one, I'm going to put this on our shimmer paper, or glitter paper here. Move it up in the camera so you can see it. And this is going to go right on the glitter paper. And now I'm going to move this VersaPad out of the way so I have a little bit more room. Now I'm going to stick these down. Okay, this is going to go on here. And then we're going to put it right on the base. And if you notice with this one, there's a little bit more of a white border around our colored cardstock there. But with this one, there's a wider base of colored cardstock around that, and then I'm just going to put that right there. You could put it on the other side. Maybe I'll put it on the other side so it kind of is opposite of the other one I made. I'll put that on the other side, and we just add that right there, and there are the two cards. And then these are the other two I made, so they're just a little bit, these two are in these two corners, and those are in those two corners, so it just kind of depends. Pretty much the same thing. And look how quick and simple that was. No mess, no fuss, quick and easy. I hope you liked this video. I will go ahead and tell you that the stamp set that I used were Candlelight Garden, and that's the stamp right there. Your friendship means everything. So that was it. I hope you liked these two cards. I hope you give some stenciling a try, even if you don't have stencils. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. Click the subscribe button. If you click the bell, it will tell you when I upload new videos. And I will be uploading more because I'm doing a series on the quick and easy, the simple cards. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.